I've had a hard life. I was born in Chicago to a loving family. Well, almost. I wasn't universally hated or given indifference by the entire household. Only my father. He was a bloody drunk. Calling him abusive is an understatement in general. It didn't matter who it was. My mother, my sister, and especially me. I don't recall why he was particularly disdainful of me, but I try not to think about it. His verbal assaults were the least of my worries. In fact, my earliest childhood memory was of him beating me unconscious with his belt for disturbing some sprawled-out components of a car engine. I was only 4. I shit you not. You kind of get used to this, but it never stopped hurting. When I was 9, I was molested. He was a good family friend. Drove a nice big truck he used for work. He often gave me car rides, as a matter of fact. I had a pretty severe heart condition. I couldn't play any sports, no matter how I longed to. This definitely didn't give my classmates and neighbors a reason to lay off. It didn't help that I was overweight. Even through all of this, I was a good kid. Any teacher could vouch for that. Around the 4th grade, I started suffering blackouts. Soon followed the seizures, for most of which I needed to be hospitalized. Then, my appendix burst. By the time I was 18, I had spent over a year and a half in the hospital. And yet, despite all of this, my father, before my mother, sister, and any worker in the immediate area, pointed to me and accused me for baiting for sympathy. And they all watched, and did nothing. I, at the very least, never blamed my family. I knew why they stood idly by. So, life went on. The sun rose, the sun set. I went to school and came home to a shitstorm. People were born, people died. I joined Democrats, and one can only imagine how my father reacted. Bastard didn't even allow me to keep the car keys when I failed to live up to his spontaneous and never stated expectations. My love came from the corpses I ever saw while I worked at a mortuary. My only current memory of my father's well-being was allowing me to come home after all those years. I hadn't even finished high school when I entered college. I finally did find love. We wed many years later. I joined the local JCs and unfortunately took part in their seedy and clandestine activities. I turned to other activities. Children mostly. The things I did, in my mind, at least, bring me a strange sense of delight. I remember Donald. Ooh, Donald was a special one. We had a fun time. A real fun time. Drunk or not, he was incredible. I got 10 years for that, and I never saw my wife and kid again. The state penitentiary wasn't that bad, now that I think about it. Dare I say, it was enjoyable. It was as if I was a school child again. I got my inmates' pay increased. I helped improve conditions. They even let me build a mini golf course. And for a while, it felt good. Then came Christmas. My father, that bastardized piece of crap, finally gave out. Psoriasis, they said. Honestly, it was a no-brainer. And yet, I wasn't joyous. I felt empty, destroyed, emotionally traumatized. How? My father was a drunk buffoon. The world has done a service with his death, so why did I feel so crushed? I don't remember what happened next. I'm told I collapsed sobbing and babbling incoherently. I was quite literally dragged away from the location of my fit. I asked to be granted temporary leave to attend his funeral. I was denied. After just 18 months imprisoned, I was granted 1 year leave of parole. I vowed I would not go back again. I was a new man. I moved in with my mother and got manual work. I did it again less than a year later. Just like Donnie, a teenager. I got him in my car at least. I wasn't convicted since he never bothered to show up for the trial. It's odd. I feel that, in my mind, I knew there was something wrong with me, but I guess I just didn't care. I needed more. I got remarried a while later. Less than a week after the wedding, I raped a guy. I got off scot-free when he tried to blackmail me. I was even impersonating an officer. I'll never learn, I guess. A while after, the wife and I moved to Iowa. I got a nice paying job at a contracting firm. A worker and I headed it up to a beach property to assess it. I raped him too. He followed me back, though. Tried to kill me. Came pretty close too. Through all of that, I just laughed. I don't know why. It just makes me laugh. No one was ever any wiser. Everyone saw me as a gracious and well-mannered member of society. Even my wife was in the dark. I later joined the local Moose Club. Through them, I found another call, as a clown. I had a cute little name, something I guess the kids enjoyed as well. I find it funny. It's a parent's worst nightmare to have someone like me as a clown at their child's party. I wasn't just a birthday performer either. I participated in multiple events in the community, especially charities. I like to watch people, I guess. Mother's Day came around, and I had a surprise for my wife. After we were finished, I informed her of my preferences, and that this act would be the last we would share. After that, I guess I went a bit more blatant. I started bringing boys, not just men, boys, into the garage. My wife began finding things, really naughty things. Thinking of this brings a wide smile to my face. We divorced soon after. Finally, I came to the part of my life where I found it. Eventually, I came across Timmy. He was just a regular guy trying to get to Omaha. I took him through the city, drove him to my house with the promise he could stay the night. He accepted, and all was good. To be honest, I don't remember if I was planning anything. I awoke the next morning with a jolt to find him standing at the doorway, toting a kitchen knife. I jumped up and tried to pounce, and he threw his arms up. The knife cut me near the wrist. In retrospect, I realized this was not his intent. I banged his head into the wall, and with a great force, he slammed his foot into my gut, but I managed to topple him. I plunged it down into his chest, and something strange occurred. A gripping, but undeniable feeling slowly overtook me. It felt good. I took the knife again. Stab. Gripped the blade once more. Stabbed. Plunged the blood-drenched weapon right back into his chest. Stab. And then, release. It wasn't long before I killed again. Most of them were down there with him, in the crawl space. I really should find another place to store these corpses, but I'd hate to abandon my friends just yet. Looking back on that night, I still find one lingering thought as funny as I did then. After I was finished with him, and as I descended the stairs, I found something. Something I actually came to thank for revealing me the ultimate thrill. I found an open carton of eggs and a thick slab of unsliced bacon. With it, a table set for two. Timmy was just coming up to say breakfast was ready. On January 2nd, 1972, 15-year-old Timmy Jack McCoy was last seen alive entering the car of a stranger. Timothy was stabbed to death in the home of the driver of that car. It was a misunderstanding, and indeed happened, as the pasta described. And unfortunately, the man who killed him did in fact go on to kill many more men and boys, and bury them in his crawl space. This man was abused as a child. This man was molested at 9. This man did suffer from childhood obesity, seizures, and appendicitis, all with an overbearing alcoholic father. And this man was convicted for indecent activities with children. That man's name? John Wayne Gacy, or, as the community knew him, Pogo the Clown.